All right, the product, the sum, and the sum to product formulas. So I'm going to start this off with all of the trigonometric formulas I have taught you so far, things that I have had memorized for a long time. But these product to sum and sum to product formulas, I don't have memorized at all. I always look them up. Um, so don't stress about memorizing these. The other ones, the angle sum formulas, the double angle formulas, the power reducing formulas and stuff, those are going to be useful enough that you should have them in mind. But these, you're going to have a situation where you see something like um, sine of 3x times sine of 5x, and you want to rewrite it in terms of cosine. So, for example, since I put this on the board, one of the power reducing one of the product to sum formulas is that sine of alpha times sine of beta equals 1/2 of the cosine of alpha minus beta minus the cosine of alpha plus beta. So what I can do is I can identify 3x as alpha and 5x as beta, and then I can plug it into this formula basically directly. So let's see. All right. So then what you get is you get 1/2 of the cosine of 3x minus 5x minus the cosine of 3x plus 5x, which is 1/2 of the cosine of negative 2x minus the cosine of 8x. And then just as a note, I can change this to plus because cosine of negative x equals cosine of x because cosine is an even function. So let's try another one. Let's try the cosine of 4x times the cosine of x. So the appropriate formula here is cosine alpha times cosine of beta equals 1/2 of the cosine of alpha minus beta plus the cosine of alpha plus beta. And so then if I plug in here, I'm going to get 1/2. So 4x is alpha and x is beta. So I'm going to get 1/2 of the cosine of 3x plus the cosine of 5x, like that. So what you can do now is you can take the sum to product formulas and you can solve for the sum part and get what are called the sum to product formulas. So if I have something like the sine of x squared minus the sine of x cubed, this is an example of sine of alpha minus sine of beta. And sine of alpha minus sine of beta is 2 times the sine of alpha minus beta over 2 times the cosine of alpha plus beta over 2. So this is going to become 2 times the sine of x squared minus x cubed over 2 times the cosine of x squared plus x cubed over 2. And really, that's all there is to this. So if you don't have any questions now about how to actually use this, we're done. But what I was going to do, just for the heck of it, is now at the end of the video talk about how you can actually derive these things in the first place. So the trick here is the cosine of alpha plus beta is angle sum formula. This is cosine alpha cosine beta minus sine alpha times sine beta. And the cosine of alpha minus beta is cosine of alpha times cosine of beta plus sine alpha times sine beta. So notice if you add these together, on the left you'll get cosine of alpha minus beta plus cosine of alpha plus beta, and on the right you're going to get 2 cosine alpha cosine beta, and that's it because the signs are going to cancel. So then you divide by 2 and it gives you cosine alpha cosine beta equals 1/2 of the cosine of alpha minus beta plus the cosine of alpha plus beta. So you can derive it directly that way. And the other 3 product to sum formulas can be derived in a similar way. But let's say, just hypothetically, you wanted to show that sine of alpha plus sine of beta was equal to 2 sine of alpha plus beta over 2 did I screw that up? No, I didn't screw that up. Times the cosine of alpha minus beta over 2. So the way you could do that is to start on the left and think, well, how can you think of the sine of alpha plus beta over 2? Well, the sine of alpha over 2 plus beta over 2 equals sine alpha over 2 cosine beta over 2 plus cosine alpha over 2 sine of beta over 2. And the cosine of alpha over 2 minus beta over 2 is cosine alpha over 2 cosine beta over 2 plus sine alpha over 2 times the sine of beta over 2. And that's, you could multiply that out, but that's going to be really ugly. So let's take a different approach. All right, so here is how I'm going to figure it out. If you start with the formula sine, call it A times cosine of B equals 1/2 of sine of A plus B plus sine of capital A minus B. Then what I can do is I can rewrite that as 2 sine A cosine of B is sine of A plus B plus the sine of A minus B. So now, suppose I define A to be alpha plus beta over 2, and I define B to be alpha minus beta over 2. Then the left becomes 2 times the sine of alpha plus beta over 2. And you get the cosine of alpha minus beta over 2. And on the right, if you add A plus B together, you see that A plus B is going to be alpha plus beta plus alpha minus beta over 2, which is just alpha, and alpha minus beta is alpha plus beta minus alpha plus beta over 2, which is just beta. So you're going to get sine of alpha plus sine of beta, just like we wanted. So these things can be derived from the formulas we already have, but they're complicated enough that they can be tricky to memorize, which is why I don't. Anyway. All right.